一つ目のパネルディスカッションに移りたいと思います。では、テーマ1にご出演いただく皆様、どうぞステージの方にお願いいたします。よろしくお願いいたします。それではこれからのお時間はパネルディスカッションを2部構成で進めてまいりたいと思います。これから始まります第1部ですが、テーマはスマートシティとデータ流通です。モデレーターを務めていただきますのは筑波大学教授川島博一先生です。それではパネリストの皆様のご紹介も含めまして進行川島先生にお願いしたいと思います。よろしくお願いいたします。
Good afternoon. Allow me to use English to moderate this session because I have been wondering whether I should use English for today, but having noticed the quality of simultaneous translation is very good, so let me take a challenge to moderate in English. First of all, I have been working on making solutions, especially at the local level, with data, collaboratively. And I have been also working to help some emergently really risky people like flooding or some heart attack or some other very local accidents. Then today's panel discussion topic is smart city and data sharing. It is very big. So it is really challenging to me and to the panelists today, but I hope the distinguished panelists today will make very fruitful discussion for the audience today. Let me introduce today's panelist. From my left, Mr. Yasunori Mochizuki from NEC. He's also a smart city specialist representing Japan for World Economic Forum. And then Mr. Michael Chan from Here Technology. He's originally from Shanghai, but the company is located in Taiwan, I think. And the next, Mr. Tim Chan from TMS Technologies Company Limited from Taiwan. And Dr. C.K. Fan, Asia Pacific Information and Communications Technology Association. And Dr. Glenn Mile from Indonesia, Open Data Lab, Jakarta, Web Foundation. And the last, Dr. Francisco A. Magno from Jose Roberto Institute of Governance, De La Salle University, Philippines. Let me briefly make an introductory statement. As you know, smart city is a broad idea which includes various aspects. Infrastructure specialists would discuss about efficient traffic and energy control. Government officials would think about smart city administration. Civil society organizations might stress the importance of smart citizen involvement. Data sharing is also a big concept which involves a spectrum of discussions. Lawyers might focus on privacy concerns. AI engineers might discuss about how they can collect and analyze rich data for creating new services. Civic activists might highlight the collaborative problem solving through data sharing. But one thing which is clear to me is that we are discussing about city, not globe, not nation or province. we will discuss about smart city and data sharing in a specific unit of space and society. Having shared the broad and ambiguous nature of today's topic, I think the realistic purposes of this panel discussion would be twofold. The first, share and learn from the differences and similarities on how each panelist approaches to or think about smart city and data sharing. And secondly, explore and, if possible, identify a common agenda for further discussions and future collaborative actions. Then, because we have just about 70 minutes for panel discussion, I'd like to divide in 3 parts. The first part will let each panelist to make presentation in 5 minutes to show what you do or what you think about smart cities and data sharing. And then in the second part, I'd like to learn each other from differences and similarities among presentation by the panelists. And the last part, I hope that we can explore and identify a common agenda for future discussions and future collaboration. Okay, let's start the first part, and I'd like to ask Mr. Yasunori Mochizuki to make your presentation.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So in this 5 minutes, I'd like to just elaborate NEC's effort with the Smart City Initiative in Japan, with the focus on the importance of data sharing and the collaborative innovation. So this is an example, Takamatsu City, which NEC is privileged to work with, and this city started to have the define the high-level goal of bringing in resiliency and a new growth mechanism of economy, which is the tourism, to make the self-sustainable city. And the Smart City Initiative just kick-started with data exchange platform in the regional public-private academia consortium. On the left-hand side, here is a data acquisition system, which is a digital technology. But on the other hand, it is also very important that the regional ecosystem is formed as the what they call Smart City Takamatsu Council, which is meant to work on the co-creation regionally. So what's supporting this activity is the data utilization platform, the fostering value of area. And for this data exchange platform, we have proposed a fireware for next generation smart city, which is actually the IoT platform generated in Europe, but now used in 140 cities in the world. So the prior of smart city is just to think about making things more efficient in each verticals like transport and safety, where the cities across the services are hard to be shared. Whereas Fireware, with its open collaboration enabler, uses an open API, which is standard-based, and also the open source implementation, which allows data to be shared across the verticals and even among cities. And this allows everybody to work with the new services quite cost-effectively, and also encourage departments to start to collaborate. So looking at Takamatsu City, which started working like this, the council has set several working groups to tackle the well-defined problem solving, and data utilization is now taking off via data sharing enabler, which is Fireware, and also the regional ecosystem sharing regional challenges. And those results marked in red indicates that they started to have some quantitative benefits or new discoveries in the tourism marketing. So it's really started to bring something new to the city. In this way, NEC is working with several cities already across Japan, and the city names marked in orange are those cities using Fireware as the data sharing platform. And our, of course, hope was to now expand this data sharing not within each city but across cities, and in that sense we are really grateful to the Japanese government leadership, which defined and started a new government project called SIP. Here, NEC, together with several other private sector companies and also national institutes, are bringing the shared architecture across Japanese smart city initiative in the hope of bringing shared reference for the regional smart city ecosystem to solve regional challenges. At the center, we have this hypothetical architecture at the initial stage, and what's important is not just talking about this lower half of the technical system aspect, but we also find it very important to have this letter on the top, which are the ecosystem structure and the regulatory frameworks. And by using this project as a vehicle, we hope to be able to connect the smart city initiatives across Japan. This architecture model is actually was in a proposal we made together with several Japanese companies to the government. And the central green part represent the data exchange and utilization platform that we call CityOS, which we define to be capable of speaking to another CityOS. And the important part of the gray shells, which stands for the standard API, which sits both at the southbound and northbound to make an efficient data exchange. And this is actually quite consistent with the global trend. Looking at the United States, NIST is also talking about similar pivotal points of interoperability system for smart city. And Europe, in their EU project called the minimum interoperability mechanism. The reason behind this is that it is not possible to try to standardize everything in the smart city IoT, but because each city has history and its environment. So the idea is to just focus on critical parts within this entire architecture and just try to bring this standardized protocol only to this minimal point that requires interoperability. So this is my final slide, but technically it started, but we still have challenges in the data utilization for smart city. The first one is a test bed where people get together and do pilots, but of course there has to be a diverse data that are provided and exchanged. And in order to do that, we have to make this test bed very attractive to the app developers, otherwise the test bed will stay silent. Of course, the data providers not necessarily be good engineers in IT, so we have to support such data providers' benefits, both technically and also from the sense of incentive. And the second one is innovation in technology governance or data governance, and the most important point, I believe, is to make a good balance between privacy protection, human rights protection, and the benefit coming out of the data utilization. And the third one is empowerment of regional digital data digital talent, and it's not just enough to just teach AI algorithm, but we need many people to really solve the real problem, which really strengthens this kind of digital talent to bring out the social value. And so to do that, problem-solved way of thinking and diverse discovering capability of the root cause are very important. And together with these three, we should tackle these challenges via the formation of regional public-private academia ecosystem and pilot activities toward co-creation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation about the Japanese experience on regional ecosystem, sharing regional data, and appreciate your precisely 5 minutes time operation. Anyway, thank you very much. And the floor is yours, Mr. Tim Chan. I'm sorry, Michael Chan.
Please, slide. Just waiting for the slide. Hi. Konnichiwa. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be here today to share something I'm very passionate about. In the next 5 minutes, I hope to capture for you the relevance and also the value of location intelligence it can bring to power smarter cities. Who are we? Here was formerly known as Nokia Maps or NavTech, and we were a pioneer in digital map making for over 30 years. So today, we are actually jointly owned by a German consortium of companies together with a few other tech companies. We provide we provide location map data, toolkits, and services for over 200 countries, and to support the location services for different various use cases and industries. Our mission is to create a digital representation of the real physical world to help improve how people, places, and things interact with one another and in real time. I think we all know by the year 2050, there will be about 2.5 billion people living in cities, and that will make cities super congested. One of the main reasons of this congestion is actually due to the explosive growth of ride-hailing services like Uber and Grab, okay? And I think there will be more cars on the road, and it's estimated that 25% more kilometers of road will be driven by the year 2025. We also see a sharp increase in e-commerce, which actually drives the demand of instant last-mile deliveries, and the increase of cyber attacks and potential terrorist threats are all major issues in major cities in the whole world. So with data sharing, we believe we can jointly solve a lot of problems in smart cities. Now today, there are many advanced technologies that are developed to solve problems, and these technologies have embedded features to capture location data. And we believe that location data is the glue that ties all these devices together and helps solve a problem. Regardless of where it comes from, the machine, the humans, or any business processes, we believe there's a problem that location data can help to solve. Now, with location data, opportunities are everywhere. In a healthcare, for example, right, where finding expensive and critical equipment is so critical in a hospital to save someone's life during an emergency situation. In a smart city, it helps to predict and also respond to emergency crisis, optimize how we streamline our operations, optimize our human and traffic flow, and also help us improve the awareness of our surrounding so that we can bring safety benefits to our citizens and also city travelers. To me, location intelligence is like our nervous system in our body. It helps to connect everything together, but it also helps to make everything work more efficiently. There are tons of data, or what I call raw data, being created and collected today, right, from everything and everywhere. The challenge of today's big data challenge is actually these raw data are all silos. They're sitting in silos in different departments or agencies, and most of the raw data are not actionable nor insightful. We believe by connecting and combining these data silos, using location index, we can help extract valuable context and insights for everything and everyone. Let me give you some examples. Today, all of you know autonomous car, a car full of sensors. Today, there are about 200 sensors in a connected car. And every time, every hour, these connected cars can send terabytes of real-time sensor data to the cloud. Using this data, we have created high-value connected services that can be shared back to the car. For example, like on-street parking. The users share parking and sensor data and weather and predictive models to inform drivers when and where there's a parking lot, indoor or outdoor, and also comes with cost information. This makes parking much less stressful, help the driver save time, and also help reduce pollution on the road. Supply chain management is the next example. With data sharing, we know that it is very expensive to track expensive equipment from one location to another over a long period of time. And using location technology and open data, we have helped a company that builds premium car engines to translate into huge efficiency gain and large cost savings for their business. So, to enable an open location system, collaboration is really key. And we believe by fostering data partnership between public and private sectors, we can create social value by extending the value of your data. Just a final view of how we contribute to this ecosystem. At the core of our open location platform, we offer rich map data with hundreds of attributes, constantly updated, real-time and organized by location index and also time, through machine learning and also artificial intelligence to help us learn how the world is moving and changing, and to build insights for better product innovations. We give developers an easy-to-use platform, which what we call the workspace, where you can use your data and build your own value-added services for the market. We have a marketplace whereby open data owners or private data owners can bring your own data to this location platform, monetize, exchange, or even license other services and data from other consumers and providers. And finally, we add our own location services like geocoding, rendering, 3D content to give iPhone or Android users a very rich user experience. So lastly, we know that the future has to be a collaborative one. And I'm actually very excited to see how public and private sectors partner with your data, combined with location intelligence, can open to new doors of opportunities and to improve the way we live, we work, and we play. I look forward to our open collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing the power of real-time location data, which will enhance the collaboration among different stakeholders. Thank you very much. So next, Mr. Tim Chen, please.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Tim from Taiwan TMS. And I'm seeing it's very big challenge and speak after Michael Chen, yeah, because he had very good presentation, yeah. And today I will show you some of the experience and there is a real case in Taiwan, and we use the traffic open data to optimize the urban traffic control. Who am I? I'm Tim from Taiwan TMS. I'm also be the deputy chairman of the Taiwan Open Data Alliance. And I think in the Asia Pacific city, and we always face the same problem in traffic jam, like the traffic jam, like the pollution, and like the crowded, and like dangerous. And this is what we meet every day. And to solve this problem, and many years ago, a lot of the city they built up the traffic control center. And they set a lot of the roadside and the equipment, like the VD, and like the CCTV, and like the CMS, and all the data combined into the data center. And the data center have some of the people management the data and send the right control to the signal control. And it's a problem is that if we have a good solution, why it's always crowding every day? This is a real picture in Taipei neighborhood area. So you can see a lot of the car and a lot of motorcycle. I see maybe a lot of the city people, and you can see every day in your city. So why we solve the problem? And in Taiwan, we use the policeman. So in some of the intersection traffic jam, and we have the policeman and open the control machine and use the SI and to adjust the traffic light. It's not intelligent. It's not human intelligent. So if we have a source of the data, why we can make the signal more smarter? It's what we say. If the signal controller can be smarter and like the policeman, and he will make the traffic better. So it's the process how we make the traffic control can be learned like a baby. So we must fill up a lot of the historical data from the VD, from the e-tech, from the GPS, and from some of the data. And we also must build up the model of the city area. So we need to understand people and the people office. So we need the OD model and to build up the model. And we must set up a lot of the equipment from the data, like the GPS data, like the video data, in some of the way we are interested. So it's a process, and we need to let it to learn and to build out the model. After that, and we need like some of the gene algorithm, like a mouse and in the math, and looking for the chip. And when he looking for the chip, and he can get the word. And so if we have do the same thing, we do the right control strategy, and we can get the right reward. And it's a return. It's a process, and we can learn from the process. Okay, not only from the intersection, because if we want to save the traffic jam, and we need to get the whole of the data from the every intersection, like the football team, and they must team group, and they can take the car flow and the pass and the first pass and from their intersection. So it's very interesting, and we not only get the data from the every intersection, and we must have a good algorithm to solve this problem. So it's what we do in Taichung City. Taichung City is number 2 of the largest and the population and the vehicle, and the number is the number 2 in Taiwan. And we face a very good, very big traffic jam. From the major road to the highway, we must have a 45-minute delay. So it's every day. If you must from the major road to the highway, you must have a 45-minute delay. So it's the system architecture we build up, and we collection the historical data, and we also build up the traffic model in this area, and we also build collection a lot of the real-time data from the detect, from the camera, from the e-tech. All the data, we can fusion the data with our model, and if we can predict the next hour, and it will be make the good decision for right now. Okay, this is the one we do in Taiwan. So we have the TRE real-time model, and we have calculate every 5 minutes, and we can calculate the information in our center, and also have built up some of the standard and the KPI. We must minimize the delay time and the queue length and the number of the steps. So this is our KPI. So how we can make the KPI will be reduced? So we need to optimize and use the algorithm to find out the best strategy. Every 5 years, we update the information into the traffic controller. And this is what we've done right now. When we launch our service, and there has a 10% of the travel time delay, and will be reduced. And the speed will be grow up more than 8%, and the speed increase more than 8%. I think now this algorithm already built up in Taichung City and the Taipei City, and I think a lot of the countries like Taiwan, and we also make the same problem. And we can share the algorithm, and we can share the technology, and we can share the data, and to everyone. And it's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. I'm very much impressed with the fact you have already implemented the collaborative light control at the area-wide level. So I think it's really impressive. And then I think the next presenter will be, actually, I talked with Dr. Fang yesterday, and we agreed to put Dr. Fang's presentation at the last, judging from his nature of the content. So let's move to Dr. Glenn Mile from Open Data Lab, Jakarta. Please, Glenn.
Thank you, Professor Kawashima. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. My name is Glenn Mile. I'm representing the Web Foundation. This is an NGO which has an operation in Indonesia, in Jakarta, as a hub to the Southeast Asia region, and works specifically on the open data innovation. In our work, we supported government and civil society in doing open data innovation, and the presentation that I'm going to convey here is related to our work in supporting the government of Indonesia in looking into improving data governance process within the government agencies. If you have listened to the presentation from the previous panelists, you will notice that to be able to work efficiently, smart city needs the free flow communication of data, which is why it has been emphasized that data interoperability between the systems is the key to efficient smart cities. This is the same thing happens in the way the government works as well in the era of big data. So the government of Indonesia just issues a regulatory framework called One Data Indonesia that aims to improve data-driven policy making. And one of the key aspects, indicators that it aims to improve is the level of interoperability between the government agency in the data flow. In the end, it aims to improve data governance as well as publication and use of open data. And for our part in supporting the government, we were asked to basically do a research to understand what are the key barriers for data interoperability within the government agencies. And that's what we did back in 2007. That was like 4 months. We did face-to-face interviews and observation, and we use 3 key sustainability development goals indicators. That is a number of deliveries in healthcare facilities, community-led total sanitation, and prevalence of stunting. Especially on stunting, this is some of the key issues faced by developing countries, where almost now in the world, 25% of children below 5 years old having an issue with height. And that's what we are trying to model. So what we did in understanding the barriers for data interoperability between the government agency is that we do what we call data journey modeling. This is the tool that we use. It is aimed to identify social and technical barriers for data movement within a large and complex organization. So what the tool does is that it models necessary parts of data infrastructure, where the data is stored, whether the data is stored in digital format or in non-digital format, who are the actors who are interacting with these systems, how the flow of the data within the government, within the system itself. So this is a very simple representations of the data infrastructure and data flow modeling, but it actually sort of helps us in understanding the key barriers and understand whether the new regulation will be helpful in order to basically resolve all the issues in relation to data interoperability. So what we did is that we model this from the local level, within the village level, up to municipal level, provincial level, and until the ministerial level in the central government. For the village level or local level, we did an interview. We also did observation of the systems in the private clinics, community health clinics, and also government hospital. This is the results of the mapping. This is an example of the results of the mapping. You will see lots of boxes there representing where the data are being stored, who are actually interacting with the data, what are the formats, whether it's in digital format or is it in non-digital format itself. You will also see the different inputs to the data, whether it is towards whether the person is actually interacting with the data or the system itself interacting with the data. This is the example I give you from the mapping of or journey of data set on deliveries on healthcare facilities. So this is an example of problems that we identify, for example, on repeated loss. That is because there is lack of systemized data collection between private hospital and the clinic. This is just some example. Also, we identify problems with time inefficiency within where the with the hospital or with private clinics officers actually there is a competing task between the midwives who also perform health service delivery, but also data collection and data management delivery as well. So we came up with 3 key aspects of barriers to data flow. The first one is the people. We realized that visionary leaders that can transform the vision into a meaningful implementation plan is actually useful and is key to good, efficient data flow within the organization. We also need a clear governance structure, including specific role and responsibilities of different actors that are managing the data. We also need standards. So standards is useful to have uniformity within the production of the data, management of the data until publications of the data. That will reduce actually, if we have a clear standard, government-wide standard, it will reduce inefficiency in data collection and entry. We also need compliance. This is important in order to implement the standard. And also we need to have an incentive to reward people who are compliant with the standard. We also need to manage the task that the actors in this case, midwives or health staff are doing in terms of doing their main job, which is healthcare deliveries, but also in terms of their responsibility in data management activities as well. So we came up with 4 key recommendations to the government in Indonesia. They can include, at the time, this has already been included in the final regulation, final draft of the regulations to address that issue with people, standards, and compliance. So the first one is that we need to build data governance capacities in local government. So we emphasize on the local government here because this is where the most changes can be conducted effectively, and this capacity building needs to be done both for elected officials, but also for the career servants as well. We need to also develop data architecture standards, including metadata and all the procedures needed for efficient exchange flow of data. There's also concerns with the existence of different regulations within the government, where previously governments are working in silo, developing their own standards and their own regulation concerning data management. So that's why we also need to review the existing standard and have a single government-wide standard that can be applied. Of course, as you can see, there are a lot of things has already been done manually. So to make sure that this the process is like efficient, we need to make sure that ICT is also being applied in order to fasten the process. And with that, I will end my presentation. Some of our work is also available in our website, so for you to check, and happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn, for your very interesting model named Data Journey to detect barriers for data sharing. And you identified three key barriers: people aspects, and the standardization aspects, and compliance aspects. Thank you very much. And next, Dr. Francisco Maguno, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My presentation deals with the efforts of my organization. I represent De La Salle University and the various research centers from the data sciences, natural sciences, engineering, and the social sciences, with the aim of building knowledge partnerships between universities and cities, using our university, which is located in the city of Manila, on how to develop a smart city template where there is collaborative engagement between the university and the city. How to co-create smart city solutions with tools and techniques and technologies developed by universities to address urban problems in consultation with government and civil society stakeholders. I locate my discussion within the context of digital transformation, which is the continuing process by which enterprises, organizations, and government agencies adapt to or drive disruptive changes in their customers, citizens, and markets by leveraging digital and physical business and citizen experiences while improving operational efficiencies and organizational performance. There are different layers of engagement. The Philippine Digital Transformation Strategy 2022 aims to achieve genuine citizen engagement through various digital mechanisms. It is a 3-year development plan aimed at transforming the government into a digital platform, providing transparent and accountable governance, efficient operations, direct citizen engagement, and innovation. Openness is a basic building block in e-governance. Public sector data is open to the public and can be used to give insight into government operations, policy effects, and can also be used for private sector innovation. If the opening of data creates transparency, it also generates new business. Citizen engagement mechanisms and the demand for open government are important to foster innovation. This is an example where De La Salle University, through its computer studies faculty and with the bridging role of the Institute of Governance, are developing storytelling visualization tools that showcase the flood hazards of a city in Metro Manila. An example is Marikina City. And we hope to duplicate this effort with the City of Manila. The visualization was submitted to #VisRisk, a disaster data and map design challenge hosted by the World Bank, the Global Facility for Disaster Risk and Reduction, Mapbox, and the Data Visualization Society. This project was limited because it was built utilizing publicly available data such as maps from the National Mapping and Resource Information Authority and point of interest data from OpenStreetMap. We hope that access to other government data can eventually be published as open data, which is important to develop other interactive visualization tools that can tell a story, monitor progress, and guide decision-making. Today, the most advanced industries in the Philippines in terms of digital migration are financial services, telecommunication companies, retail, and utilities. In the effort to accelerate government's digital transformation, there is a need to tackle local challenges of government data integrity and reliability for mobile services involving payments, civil registries, education, elections, passports, health, disaster risk reduction and management, and other frontline services. It is also important to discuss topics such as data-driven social sciences and emerging technologies, while parallel tracks will engage conversations on digitization in government and local government unit digital transformation with industry partners. The creation of the Department of Information and Communications Technology in 2016 was a major development. As the lead agency on ICT, it gave focus on the overall goal of establishing a transparent, efficient, and citizen-centric e-governance. As frontline service providers, local government units are important in addressing the challenges and opportunities offered by digital transformation and the attainment of sustainable development outcomes. City governments, for instance, still need to invest in fundamental systems and services, but they can use smart solutions to get more capacity and lifespan out of their infrastructure assets and deliver for their residents in a more effective manner. Sensors, cameras, and smartphones have now allowed the easier creation or collection of real-time traffic data, air pollution, and crime data. Urban analytics and mobile applications translate this data into alerts, insights, and tools. This allows users to make better decisions. Various stakeholders co-create value in the digital ecosystem, whether it is financing, urban planning, technical expertise, operational capabilities, or knowledge of the local landscape. The development of these smart cities may result in billions worth of savings in the cost of living in the city and produce new jobs in the country. Government legislation and regulations need to prioritize and incentivize digital innovation. Local governments can work in partnership with the universities, private sector, and civil society stakeholders to develop innovative financing mechanisms and service delivery models in the age of digital transformation. A system of knowledge and innovation hubs where government in partnership with the private sector, academic institutions, promote the type of innovation that benefits the various sectors of the economy and country. These learning laboratories will provide a platform from which theoretical and applied disciplines can converge and from which new areas of knowledge could be mapped and developed to guide collective action to optimize the rewards from digital transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your very interesting, framework toward digital transformation in the Philippines, and I'm especially interested in your approach using city, university, innovation hub, I think, which is one of the interesting approach to create some local ecosystem. And finally, we have Dr. C.K. Fang. Thank you for your waiting.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is my honor to be here to share with you some of my viewpoints. When I was invited to talk about smart city and open data flow, and this is a very, very big problem. So I decided to choose a minor issue, okay? Because throughout my experience, I believe that most people, when they talk about smart cities and open data, they're going to talk about values. However, in an ancient Chinese saying, a sword have two edges. Okay, so whenever there are things that create values, there can be some drawbacks. So I'm going to share with you some of my viewpoints in privacy. Okay. In fact, just now, Dr. Mochizuki also in his talk talks about the data governance, privacy, and so on. This is a very subtle issue. Okay. Basically, just now we heard various experts talk about some smart city. It includes things like sensors, smart objects, terminal, things like that. And one thing about it is collecting a large amount of data. So there is a huge potential of generating a lot of values out of it. Okay, as just now Michael mentioned about data silo. The value of creation out of open data or out of smart city, it can be value within an application. Okay, so we can have a traffic solution that is values within an application. However, all the data created by that application is within a data silo. It is limited. Okay, so there are other values. The value created through sharing of data. If there are two applications that share data, then we can break the islands or the silos of the data, and so we can create more data. So like intergovernmental agencies using open data and so on. And also, there might be sometimes value derived through not sharing. Okay, so not sharing, by not sharing, we means if there are negative values, then by not sharing, then we can create a lot of other values like privacy protection and security and so on. So what I'm saying is, given a very, very short period of time, I just want to raise one problem, is that we need to look, when we create values. Personally, yesterday I talked to Dr. Kawashima, and I mentioned that I'm 100% for value creation in smart city. However, I just want everyone to be aware that while we do that, there might be something. So just now, team talk about an application in Taichung City. Okay, traffic. So what we do is I just got a list, a partial list, a very short partial list of some of the things that happened in Taipei City. The list is from Smart City Expo in Taipei 2019. I'm not going to go into a detail, but what I'm saying is that if you look at this list, you can see that the Smart City application, it covers road, traffic, it covers healthcare, it covers many things. But if we create values out of each smart city application, it is silo. Okay, so we can share data and create more data. However, a lot of times, the open data, the values, we can create values through sharing of data between the smart city applications. But there's a value dilemma. The government, whether we want to pursue the value through government efficiency, public value, and common good. But there is another thing, is private individual rights. If this is just a balance act, if we push towards one end, we'll lose the other side. If we push 100% towards government efficiency, then we lose individual rights. So where should we put our balance? So I'm using the word Orwellian nightmare. Okay, Orwell is a famous author that wrote at least 2 books, Animal Farm and 1984. If we go to Orwellian fiction, that means whatever we do, there is always a big brother behind our back monitoring what we do. Okay, so I think I'm running out of time, but to handle the privacy issue, we have to do it through legislation, and like in Taiwan, we have a Personal Information Protection Act, and in various countries there are a lot of other rules or international regulations, like the GDPR enacted last year by the European Union. And also, when we talk about privacy, it covers a lot of things, well beyond our imagination, like cookies, IP addresses, GPS locations, things like that. So this in order to do this, we have to invoke some protection mechanism, including anonymization and pseudonymization, things like that. Okay, so originally I was going to talk about one example in Taiwan, but since I'm 1 minute over time, so thank you very much. So what I'm wanting to say is that be aware of the pitfalls when we create values. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your diverse insights from your country at different levels. Mr. Mochizuki introduced us a kind of networked regional ecosystem data sharing model with some standardization. It doesn't have to be strict, but at a certain level of standardization. And Michael introduced from the global point of view the power of real-time location data, what would make possible with that dynamic data. And Tim Chen introduced the actual impact at the local area-wide level in your city, Taichung. And Glenn, you showed us data journey model to detect different barriers through the journey of opening data. It's really interesting. And Dr. Francisco Maguno showed us how you are thinking about making framework toward digital transformation in your country, and you stressed the importance of city-university collaboration. I really agree, because I'm working in the university, and the university must have bigger role in this data sharing in Japan. And as I imagined, actually we are running the time, and I think we were overrun with 20 minutes, and I suppose we still have 20 minutes, so I want to combine the second part and the third part. And let me ask the first question. Could you give me your findings from other panelists' presentations as similarities or differences with your experience in your company or in your region? I mean, differences, inspires in many cases some new ideas or new, thoughts. So I ask anybody to share your findings from other presenters. Okay, Mr. Mochizuki, please.
To be honest, I was really surprised and amazed that actually all the speakers shared a similar issue to tackle, which is the technical interoperability, how to bring this, because it's not that there is no standard, there are too many standards, this is the problem. And of course, all the speakers, to my understanding, address the importance of the data governance, and because cities don't move to each other, it's really important to share practices among cities. In that aspect, I encourage all of the relevant people to take a look at the very recent city network called the City Coalition of Digital Rights, where the cities start to join to sign the same declaration and share practices, how the city is coping with how to do the anonymization and so forth. And another aspect that I wanted to show, that all the speakers tended to address both technical importance in how to share data and also the regulatory framework to make the citizens comfortable. And for that reason, I also work for the World Economic Forum, and this balancing point should be only clarified not sitting in a committee room, but doing pilots. And otherwise, it's really hard to find out the real balancing point. And in that aspect, I also believe that everybody address the importance of the collaboration. So collaborated pilot is really the clue to bring everything forward. So that was my finding.
Thank you very much. I mean, all of the panelists stressed the kind of balanced approach from the technical interoperability and also some people's point of view, especially you pointed out, actually there are too many standardization in the world. So could you give us another, points? Okay.
Yeah, so let me start first. I think from all the panelists and also the keynotes that I've heard throughout the day, I think most of the leading smart cities in the world are actually separated by thousands of miles and with different time zones, different cultures and their own challenges. When I listened through all the discussion and this morning, I think of all the challenges, there's no doubt that everyone, they're using one very common data point, and that is location data. And location data is using to optimize the cities and bring significant benefits to, number one, I think governance, number two, environmental, mobility and transportation, and urban planning. So if I were to give some takeaway from what is the common ideas for future collaboration, I would say three things which align to what Glenn just mentioned, right? People, standard, and compliance. For me, I think it's number one is definitely open collaboration between public sector and private sector in data sharing. And the goal is actually to break down the data silos, as Dr. Fan mentioned. Number two, consistent data formats and quality. And unification of data format is extremely important, whether the services is developed locally or outside of the country. Number three is actually creation of value-added services to solve citizens' problem. And here, technologies internally, we always constantly ask ourselves, what is the market problem we try to solve? What's the market problem we try to solve? Always start small, and this is where our hackathon event actually is helpful, that we identify smart services developed from smart developers and help to incubate and scale up not just locally but also overseas. So the more cities and governments start sharing data, more insights will be created, and then important changes and development will start to happen. So that's my view. Thanks.
Michael, please.
Okay, thank you. And I have three topics and need to share. Thank you for every speaker and have very good presentation. And but I know smart city is very big issue, so it is not easy to solve all the problem. But I think we face the smart city not only for the data problem and maybe some of the we need to some of the crossover cooperation. Yeah, because like we do in the traffic information, we want to exactly to detect or to predict the traffic flow, not only from the data or the sensor, and we also need to calculate the data from the weather and from the fog. So it's important if we get the incident data from the fog and from the weather, and it will be make our prediction model change. So it's not only in the transportation know-how. And the second one is I think a lot of country and we do the smart city is we can learn from different country their successful case. But I need to understand to define the problem is more than to solve the problem. So if you want to set your you want to take your smart city problem, you must to learn from fundamental requirement, and you must understand what you need in your city. So as I know, I think as I share the algorithm, I think the methodology and you can duplicate in your city, but the model you can is different, because like in Taiwan with between Japan and our driving way is different, and our driving behavior is different. So it's build up the local model is very important. And the third one is I think we talking about a lot of the technology and the standard. Technology and standard is very important, but I think the institute framework is more than important than if we have a good institute for framework, we can share, we can learn, we can share anything from other country. I think it will make our country and make our open data will get more better. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Fang or Glenn or Francisco, do you have any points to share?
Yes, thank you. I think there are a couple of points there from my observation, coming up from looking at the internal data governance within the government agency, I was a little bit, so I was actually surprised on how similar are the problems in terms of governing data within the internal government agency, as well as within the more wider scope in an application such as smart city. So we all agree that there are big opportunities for innovations, but then like Dr. Fang has said, has pointed out that there is also a delicate balance that we need to navigate between looking at the benefits and also common pitfalls in innovating with with data within the smart city context. I also like to emphasize on the need for a good data governance, which is from several speakers here, has been pointed out by several speakers, and it's been highlighted. And from our experience and looking at a limited scope of government agency, this has been quite a challenge in establishing the standard, looking at the people and the capacity, and establishing compliance and incentive in terms of go about implementing the data governance. So it will be interesting, and maybe this is the future questions on how that will apply into the wider context, like city level kind of implementations that requires collaboration between not just the government, but also private sectors and also citizens. The second point is that, like Dr. Mochizuki has pointed out, we need to try. I'm optimistic that this can be done, and we need to try, and we need to try like what has been suggested at the local level, in a smaller scale at the local level, and that requires constant innovations, trials, experiments to go about, and how we navigate basically all these barriers of legal, political, social, and technical aspects of implementations. And like pointed out from my colleague from the Philippines, it's also important that academics, universities are playing a good role and a great role in make about and also creating that vision and achieving that vision as well. I think that's from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Francisco, could you give us your points?
Thank you. What I heard from this panel, what's common is the emphasis on creating public value. But to create public value, there has to be an understanding of the problem. So smart city solutions are responses to problems that have been identified. But as mentioned also by my co-panelists and in the keynote, by the keynote speakers, it's not just a question of technology, but really of building an infrastructure where institutional challenges are addressed. Therefore, it is important to build what we might call open data leadership. And that kind of leadership has to cut across government and across society, considering that it has also been identified that there are interoperability issues. And that's also what affects it is the bureaucratic inertia. So having said that, leadership is also driven by knowledge. You do not act only on gut feel, but actually act based on evidence. So what this kind of partnerships would entail would be developing collaboration in sharing knowledge and building knowledge sharing portals. While we are in different policy contexts, different ecosystems, there are lessons to be learned from the practices. So practice models that can be used to inform decision-making and building smart city solutions.
Thank you very much. Dr. Fang,
Yeah,
could you give us your thoughts?
I just want to echo the keynote speech by Dr. Sakamura. He mentioned about while we create values, innovation through technology, we have to also address the non-technical parts like the regulations and so on. He mentioned about the ETC in Japan and also the ERP in Singapore. I think that issue is very important. It is non-technical, but it is very important. And also the non-technical issue is to balance between the value and the privacy concerns. That's my viewpoint. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've heard similar words such as, importance of data governance and crossover collaboration. And it's not only the issue of technology, but also people and institutions. And also the knowledge sharing is a kind of enabler to empower the leadership to address the importance of sharing the data and to create innovations. The final task for this panel, I suppose, is to create some common agenda or common direction. We have already shared some common themes that doesn't have to be just discussing technology or some conceptual works, but we need to implement some concrete experimental project and share with others. And probably it could be city-to-city exchange. And actually I've heard from Mr. Mochizuki that there is some kind of international exchange events in Yokohama to share city-to-city, smart city practice sharing. So what do you think about the common agenda for us, our participants, toward probably next year's discussion? I mean, we have, shared the common aspects, technology, people, institutions, and it should be more on the ground to share the actual, physical, real problems and practices. What should we further discuss based on our discussions? Mr. Mochizuki, do you have any ideas? Or
Yeah, the only simple way to start this discussion is just to join the big club. Normally, there are lots of city networks, but something is focused on technology, whereas others are working on the policy. But if I could mention, the World Economic Forum, Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution, started what's called a G20 Global City Alliance, which tries to cover all this city network, and not just talk about the technology, but also the policy and so forth, which will have the launch meeting actually tomorrow in Yokohama. All are welcome to join, and maybe you can just Google it, and we'll try to invite all the cities, but also the city networks and also technology providers. And it's really important to join such a big club in order to start this practice sharing.
Tim, do you have any additional? No? Anybody has any additional inputs toward the common agenda?
My university is working with the city of Manila. And we just had elections, and of course, the Philippines is a country with plenty of elections. We even elect youth council leaders. But we have a new mayor, and he's very open to innovation. And in fact, he received a lot of visitors in his first few days in office. And one of them is the ambassador of Japan in the Philippines. So another is the ambassador of the United States, and they've been talking about smart city cooperation. So considering that the Philippines also relied on a master plan actually developed with the Japan International Cooperation Agency regarding traffic management, also on urban disaster management, That is a kind of collaboration that is very easy to see. So the kind of collaboration among different countries can be possible, considering that many of the issues identified this afternoon are quite similar with respect to traffic management, health service delivery, and perhaps even disaster management. So I very much agree that it's very important to have knowledge sharing across cities. And I always argue the importance of building innovation hubs with the participation of universities together with other stakeholders, including private sector, civil society organizations.
Okay, thank you very much for your very insightful and very rich input today. And we are running out of the time, so let me wrap up the discussion. We have shared different views from the global level, national level, or local level, and pointing out different aspects, including technology, people, and institutions, and it should be more crossover, linked. And then I have heard echoes pointing out the importance of the sharing the actual experiment at the city level, and there is a city alliance all over the world, I think so. And also, Francisco pointed out the kind of thematic importance, focusing on disaster management or traffic issues. Probably there are very specific sectoral issues should be also involved. So let me wrap up. Today we have discussed from the different layers and different aspects, but we have, certainly reached some point where we need to focus on actual practices at local level and share beyond the country borders. And then not only think about the theoretical things and the standardization things, but also think about people's aspect, people's involvement, how to engage with the people, empower the people, and also the institutional arrangement. And we need to have some leadership to change and move this agenda forward. And I hope we would have next round of discussion next year or somewhere in the world or in Asia. And thank you very much for your contribution today. And I hope many of the audience have received some inputs and knowledge from this panel discussion. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。スマートシティとデータ流通をテーマにそれぞれ発表とディスカッションしていただきました。モデレーターを務めていただきました筑波大学教授川島博一先生、そして興味深いお話をいただきましたパネリストの皆様に今一度大きな拍手をお願いいたします。ありがとうございました。まだまだディスカッションを深めていきたいところではございますが、残念ながらお時間となってしまいましたので、これにて第1部スマートシティとデータ流通のパネルディスカッションは終了とさせていただきたいと思います。